Today, we live in a world full of noise, wars, conflicts, pain, especially in lands that are deeply connected to faith, lands where prophets once walked, and many people are confused. They see Muslims suffering, Muslim countries in conflict, and they ask, is this what Islam teaches? But to understand today, we must look back, because history is not just events, it is a mirror of the human heart. In the Quran, Allah reminds us that corruption and disorder appear on earth because of what people do with their own hands. Not because the message was wrong, but because people changed. And this is where everything begins. If we look at history, conflict between humans has always existed, long before modern times, even between brothers, from the very beginning, with the story of the sons of Adam. One killed the other, not because of religion, but because of jealousy. And this teaches us something very deep. The problem is not religion. The problem is the human heart. Pride, ego, desire for power. In Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, warned us that envy destroys good deeds just like fire burns wood. And today, we still see this. People fighting for land, for control, for identity. But the real battle has always been inside the heart. Islam did not begin 1400 years ago. It is the continuation of a message that started with the first human, Adam, and continued through all the prophets. Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, peace be upon them all. They all came with the same message. Worship one God. Be sincere. Be just. The Quran reminds us that all prophets were sent to guide humanity to the truth, not to divide them, but over time, people changed the message. They followed cultures, traditions, and sometimes their own desires. And this is how division began, not from the message, but from what people did with it. As time passed, religion was no longer only about guidance. For some, it became about identity, power, control. History shows us that even after prophets, communities divided, disagreements turned into conflicts, and sometimes religion was used to justify actions that had nothing to do with its true teachings. But Islam reminds us of something essential. Allah commands justice, even if it is against ourselves, even if it is against those we love. So when injustice happens, we cannot say it is Islam, because Islam stands for justice and truth, not oppression. Today, many things are done in the name of Islam, but not everything represents Islam. And this is something we must understand deeply, because if we judge Islam by people, we will be confused. But if we return to the Quran and to the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, we will see clarity, we will see mercy, patience, forgiveness. The Prophet was insulted, attacked, rejected, yet he responded with mercy. This is Islam. Not what we see in anger, not what we see in injustice. Islam is perfect, but humans are not. So what is the solution? In a world filled with conflict, division, and pain? If we look at history, even at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, we see that hardship was always part of the journey. In Mecca, the believers were oppressed. They were insulted, boycotted. Some were even tortured for their faith. And yet, the Prophet did not respond with injustice. He responded with patience, with wisdom, with trust in Allah. Later, when battles came, like Badr or Uhud, they were not fought for power, but for survival. for protection, and even then, there were limits. The prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, forbade harming innocents, women, children, and even destroying nature. This is something many people forget today. Because when we look at the world now, we see wars, we see suffering, we see injustice, and sometimes it is done in the name of religion. But we must understand something deeply. Not everything done by Muslims represents Islam. Allah says in the Quran that He commands justice, excellence, and good conduct, and He forbids oppression and wrongdoing. So when we see oppression, we cannot say this is Islam, because Islam stands for justice, even if it is against ourselves, even if it is against those we love. And this is where the real question begins. What can we do? Most of us cannot change the world overnight. We cannot stop wars with our hands. But we can change something much closer. Our hearts, our actions, our sincerity. Allah tells us in the Quran that He does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. This is the key. The world reflects what is inside the hearts of people. If hearts are filled with anger, the world will reflect anger. If hearts are filled with oppression, the world will reflect injustice. But if hearts return to Allah, to sincerity, to truth, then everything begins to change. So instead of being consumed by what you see online, instead of letting your heart become heavy, return to your prayer, your connection with Allah. Protect your heart from hatred, from arrogance, from judging others. Because on the day of judgment, you will not be asked about everything happening in the world, but you will be asked about yourself, your intentions, your actions, your sincerity. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, reminded us that Allah does not look at our appearances or our wealth, but He looks at our hearts and our deeds. So fix your heart, return to Allah, hold on to your prayer, even when the world feels like it is falling apart. Because real strength is staying sincere when everything around you is confusing. And real success is meeting Allah with a pure heart. And if this reminder touched your heart, follow for more.